This is a continuation of our previous video. In our last video, we have seen how to create a list, access the data from a list slicing, adding, updating and deleting items from a list. And we have also seen when to use a list and introduction about the list comprehension and the list membership. How to get the most from this video. If you are only looking for the list method and list function videos, you can continue with this video, or if you want to clear your list concept, I would strongly recommend you to please watch my previous video first and then continue with this video. I will put the link in the card section. Now let's quickly go and see what are the topics which we are going to cover today. So these are the methods and functions which we are going to see today. So some of the methods we have already seen in our last video, but so in this video we are going to see these method and functions in details. Now let's get started. So the first method which we are going to see today is the append method. So suppose we have a list called lengths and there are some items which we have provided, and if we want to add any particular item at the end of the list, we can use the append method. Let's see an example. Lengths dot append, and we provide the item which we want to append at the end of the list. So append method expects a single parameter and it doesn't return anything. So as you can see in this image, so we have a list which contains the Python, Java, C, C++, Go and JS. So now let's go and trace that code one by one, right? So initially we have a list. So in the frame section, you will see all the variables and the stack frames which are created inside the memory and the actual objects which are created in heap memory. So you will see the diagrams over here. This particular line will create a list inside the memory. So in our next line, what we are doing, we are just appending one item into that list. So let's go and execute that line. Observe here, you will see a new item added in that list. Here it is. So these operations perform in place. There won't be any new list created inside the memory. So if you want to check the append operation performed in place, I have just printed out the ID. It will print a memory address where this particular variable is pointing. So I have printed out the memory address before appending to the list, and I have printed the memory address after appending to the list. So we can verify the variable is still pointing to the same memory address or not. So if you go and run this one by one, so here in this line we are just printing a memory address. So you can see it's printed a one memory address where the list is created, and now we are just appending. So one item is appended at the end of the list, and now we are again printing the ID. Here you can see. So both the IDs are same. It means the append operation performed in place. There is no new list created inside the memory. Now let's see, if you want to add an item to a specific location, you can use an insert function. So let me give you an example. So you have a list, and if you want to add an item to a specific location or position, you can use. So we use an insert method. Method expect two arguments. The first is the index and the second is a value. So suppose if I want to insert any item at index 0, so I will provide a 0, comma, and the item name. So if I go, so new list is created inside memory and this variable is pointing to that list, and now we are executing the insert, and we want to insert the item at position 0. Initially we are having a Python in index 0, Java in index 1, and so on, and we want to insert item at index 0. So when we execute this line, so this insert method inserted the JavaScript JS at the index 0, and it shifted all the items to the right side. Now another way of adding a value or item to a list using an extend method. So sometimes people get confused about the extend and append method. So now let's see with an example. So we use a extend method when we have a multiple values, and if we want to add the multiple items into that list, we can use extend, and we will provide a list of values, right? In that case, if I'm providing, when we have a multiple values and if we want to add the multiple items using extend method. So if we use append method and provide a list which we want to append, So it inserted the complete list. So we are containing list inside the list. So now let's see if we use insert method and we provide an index and the list of items. In this case also it is inserted the list within a list. So this problem gets solved with the extend method. So here you can see we are providing a list of items and those items are appended at the end of that list with a separate value. So we are no longer having a list within a list. So the main difference between an append and extend is if you use a append and provide a multiple list or a multiple items, it will append the entire list. Now let's look at how to remove some values or items from a list. So remove method expect a single parameter. When we execute this line, the second index, the C item gets removed from the list. Now we have the list with Python, Java, C++ and Go. What happens when you provide an item which is not present inside that list? If I provide an item PHP which is not inside that list, so in that case we will get a value error. If you want to remove all the data from that list, there is a method called a clear. You can use a method clear. What it will do, it will clear out all the items from the list. Now let's go and print the list. So if we run, we will get an empty list. So all the items which were present inside that list are gone. So there is another method called a pop which we can use to delete any items from the list. So now let's go ahead and take a look. So by default this will delete the last value from the list, as you can see here. So now let's go and trace that code. So we have a list which contains the Python, Java, C and C++ and Go items, and now let's execute the pop method. So you will observe the last item from that list should be deleted, right? So that item is called get deleted when we use a pop method. So this is a default behavior from the pop. So this is useful when we want to use a list as a stack or a queue. So pop method returns the deleted item, right? So I'm creating a variable called item. The value which pop method will delete, we will catch that value in this particular variable, and if we want we can go ahead and print. Let me first save it, then run that code, and it's printing that item which is get deleted from that list. So the item variable is containing the last element from that list which we have deleted. So suppose I don't want the default behavior and I want to delete a particular item. So suppose I want to delete an item which is in index 2. So now let's go and see that code. So we have a list which contains these items, and if we want to delete second item from that list, it will pop out the C language. So you can see here in second index we are having an item called C, right? So here you can also see that item is now containing that value, and that value or item is deleted from that list. If you go ahead and print, so you can see the C is printed. If I go and run that code from here, we are getting a C. If you provide an index which is not present inside that list, for example, if I provide the index 10 which is not present, so in that case we will get an index error. So the next method which we are going to see is a reverse method. So reverse method does not expect any argument and does not return anything. And the reverse method do the reversing of a list in place. That means it will not create a new list inside a memory. It will do the reverse with the same list which is already created. We are having a list which contains these items. So in this line we are just trying to call a reverse method, so which will do the reverse of item inside that list. So let's now execute. So as you can see, the items from that list are get reversed. Now let's go and see how to sort a list. So if you want to sort your list, you can use the built-in sort method. So sort method will not return anything, and it will perform the sorting in place. That means it will not create a new list inside the memory. It will perform that sorting operation, the already existing list. So if you go and trace that code, we will see we have a list which contains these items. So here we have in index 0 we have a 1, index 1 we have a 7, index 2 we have a 2, index 3 we have a 3, index 4 we have a 7, and so on. Alright, so when we execute this particular sort method or call this particular sort method, it will do the sorting of these items in place. You will not see any new list created inside the memory here. So it performed that sorting in place. Now if you want to sort particular string list, so here you have a two list. One list contains the numbers, the another list contains the string. So if you want to sort the another list also, so if you want to go and trace that code, we can also do that. So we have a two list created inside the memory, right? So we have a variable alphabet and numbers, right, which are pointing to two different lists. And now we are just sorting the numbers here. So the number list gets sorted using ascending order. And now we are trying to sort the strings. And these strings got sorted alphabetically. So now if you want to sort your list in descending order, right? So how you can do that? So there is a one flag which you can use. It's called reverse. When you provide reverse equal to true, so what it will do, it will reverse your list in descending orders. So here you can see that. So you just need to provide this extra flag if you want to sort your list in descending orders. And we have already seen these sorting operation performed in place. So now let's say if we want to sort our list without altering the original list. So sometimes we have a situation where we don't want to alter or update our original list, but we want to sort that list to perform some operations. Alright, so how we can do that? Let's take a look. So there is a function called a sorted which we can use. What it will do, it will perform the sorting and return the sorted list. So I'm calling a sorted function and providing the list. This will not sort the list in place. Instead, it will create a new list in memory and return the reference, the newly created list. So we can catch that reference to a new list, for example. Okay. So if we want to print that new list, we can also do that. This is our original list which contains our original values, and we have another list which is sorted list. So if we go ahead and trace that code, initially we have our original list, and now what we are doing, we are calling a sorted function and we are passing the list which we want to sort. So the sorted function will perform the sorting and return the reference of newly created list. So when we execute this line, the new list will get created and the reference will assign to the new list variable. Take a note of it. That is very useful because most of the time we don't want to modify our original list, but we want to sort that list to perform some operations. So now let's see some more built-in functions to get minimum, maximum and sum of list items. You can use a minimum function, and what you will provide a list. So in that case, the value you can see here, we are printing a 1. So it's too small. I can just go ahead and run that for you. So here you can see that we are getting a 1. So the minimum value which we have inside that list is 1. And if you want to print the maximum value, you can use the maximum function, max. Let's save that code and run it. You will get the maximum value which you have. And if you want to do sum of all the elements which are present inside that list, so what it will do, it will do 1 plus 7 plus 2 plus 3 plus 7 and so on. So if you go ahead and run that code, you will see we are getting a 42. So if you go and add these items, you will get 42. There is a situation where you want to count a number of occurrence of particular item. So there is a function called a count which you can use to count the number of occurrence of any particular items. So now let's go and see. Create a variable count and I will call nums.count, and what I will do, I will provide the item. I want to get a count of 7 and print count, we should see a 3. Okay, we can also see the 3 over here. So if we go and trace that code, we have a list. We want a count of 7. How many times 7 is present inside that list? So it will do the count of item and inside that list and return the value. Now let's go and run that. So here you can see we are getting 3 in a count variable. Now let's talk about the copying the list. You have a situation where you want to copy a list. So how you can do that? So the copy method which we are going to see is the shallow copy. Is we can create a new list variable and we will assign that list to another variable. So it will create a copy of list, but that is not true. Here you can see that in graphical representation, we have created a 2 variables, nums and new list. Both are pointing to the same list, right? So in this way, we are not creating or copying any list in memory. What it's doing, it's pointing to the same list. Don't think like that. If we assign a list to another variable, it will create another list inside a memory. In Python, it will not. If you go ahead and do something like if I go and del a new list, if I delete a first item from that list, and if I'm printing the nums, right? So what we have done, we have deleted the first item from that list. So both the variables were pointing to the same list. Okay, so when I have done some operations using one of that variables, it will affect the other variables as well, right? So if I go and run this code, you will see, so this is not a copy. So there is a method called a copy for a list, right? So how you can use it? Right, so it return the shallow copy. So what I will do, I will create a new variable list, new list, and I will assign that copied variable, and let's go and print that out. Okay, so if you go and run that code, you will see in a new list we are having the same item. So how we can verify the copy is created a new list inside the memory? So what I will do, I will print the ID of the variable first, and here I will print ID of new list. Okay, now let's go and run that code. You will see these 2 variables are pointing to the different memory locations, right? So this list is present inside this memory location, and the new list which we have created using a copy function is present in this memory location, and we have printed the new list which contains the same element from the list. Now let's see how to get an index of any particular items. So there is a method called an index which we can use to get the index of that particular item. So index method will return the index number of provided items, and if the item is not present, it will throw in a value error. Let's see an example. So if I want the index of item 3, so index method will return the index. So I will catch that index into one variable, and if we go and print that variable, you can see we are getting index 3. So in this way we can get the index of any particular item, right? So you can provide a range, start range and end range. Between that range, if you want to search any particular items or you want to get that index of that item, you can also do that. So in first position, if I'm providing 3, so what it will do, it will try to search item 1 from index 3. So from index 3, we are having 3, 7, 4, 5, 6 and 7, right? We don't have 1. So we are getting a value error because 1 is not in that list. If we are not providing any value, it will start from the 0. The default value is 0. So if we provide the start value, it will start searching from index 3. Okay. So for example, if I'm searching for a value 7, see here, we are getting index 4. So in index 4, we are having a value 7, right? So we have started searching from index 3. In index 4, we got that value. So we are not getting any value errors. And the next flag is a stop flag. So we can also provide a stop flag. So in this way, we can provide a starting range and ending range. So suppose if I'm providing 7, okay, for example, if I want to search a value 6, right, so it will start searching 6 from index 3. So in index 3 we have 3, so it will start searching from here and it will search till 7. So the value which we have provided, it will search between 3 to 6. So it will search 3, 4, 5 and 6. It will not go and search in index 7. Now let's see how to loop through the list. If we want to access each item from that list sequentially, we can use the for loop. Okay, so before going to explain you about the for loop, let's see the in operator. So if you want to check any particular item is present inside that list or not, you can use an in operator. For example, let's print and check the value x. If you want to check that value is present in that list, you can do that. What it will do, it will go and return the boolean value. If that item is present inside that list, it will return true. If we are providing an item which is not present inside that list, and if we go and run that, we will get a false. Now let's go ahead and see the loop. So we are using a for and lang in length, and we are just go ahead and print each languages, right? So let's go and see. Let's trace that code. So we have a list which contains the Python, Java, C, C++ and Go, and that variable is referencing to that particular list. So now let's go and execute that for loop, right? So in first iteration, what it will do, it will go and pick the first element from that list and it will assign that element to that lang variable which we have assigned over here. And now what we are doing, we are just printing that value which we are getting from that list. So here you can see the Python will get printed in next line here. So Python is get printed. Now the next iteration for that loop, in this time we will get the next value which is Java, right? So if you go ahead and run that, execute that line, we will get the Java for the next item. And now what we are doing, we are just printing that value in the console. So we are getting a Java. So this is a iteration the for loop will follow. So we'll go and get the next item. We will print that item. We'll get the next item. We'll print that item. We'll get the next item, and we will print that item. So we'll printing all the items which are present inside that list. And at the end, when there is no item left inside that list, the for loop will get terminated. So suppose you have a situation where you want to list items with an index. How you can do that? So there is a one function called enumerator. Enumerate, right? So in this function you will provide your list. So what this function will do, this function will return each item with index. If we go and trace one by one, so we have a list and we want to iterate through this list using enumerate function. So now let's go and execute the for loop. So in first iteration, what it's doing, the enumerate function will create a tuple. This tuple will get assigned to the lang value which we have provided over here. So here you can see we are getting that tuple. And then next iteration, the index value would be 1 and the item would be Java. So let's go and run that. So here the new tuple is get created inside the memory which contains that index 1 and the value Java. Or what we can do, we can also declare another variable index. What we are doing over here, we are getting index in the index variable and we are getting the value in lang variable. So if we go ahead and execute our code, in the first iteration of that for loop, we are getting Python in lang and 0 in index variable, right? In the next iteration, what we are getting another items from that list and the index. So in Python, the indexing start from the 0, right? And suppose you have a situation where you don't want an index start from a 0, but you want that index should be start from a 1. So in that case, there is a one option which you can provide inside that enumerate function called start, and here you can provide that number from that indexing should be start. So for example, I'm providing 1. So if you go and trace that code, right? So we have a list, right? And now we are going to execute the for loop, for statement, and we are expecting the indexing should be start from 1, not from the 0. In our last example, we have seen it's starting from a 0. Now let's go and execute that statement. Now here you can see the Python which we are getting and the indexing which we are getting, it's starting from 1. So we can provide that flag, start flag, from where we want to start our indexing. So that's it from this video. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.